Live in Mai Aini camp, one of two refugee camps in southern Tigray, where the UN has regained access.
A safety place, special to other countries, even Kenya, other thing. If I want to escape from this country.
How can I feel safe there? There is no any safety here. Because they are also here. They are not finished. There are many militias around the camp, all around the camp. No one, if someone go out of their camp, they are there, and they kill them. They kill us.
This is fine.
There are ladies which are raped by the local people just due to this war, and they are killing our brothers.
So, a third endangered Rothschild's giraffe has been rescued from Longicharo Island on Kenya's Lake Baringo. As water levels rise around the lake, the land continues to shrink, threatening the survival of trapped animals. 6 remaining giraffes will be moved in the coming months.
We recently moved one more giraffe in addition to the previous 2 which were moved early December. This is because over time we've trained the giraffe to feed within the barge. They got used to feeding, and it was easy to move that giraffe without tranquilizing it or using use of any medicine. We are moving basically all the giraffes out of the island because over time the lake water has risen and its habitat has really reduced in terms of forage, and also the area from which these animals can free range and graze. We still have quite a number, 6 actually giraffes, including the recent young one which was born in December. This is a process that we are trying to look at a case or day-by-day scenario. The moment we train these remaining giraffes, the moment they are ready, we move them. But the target is to move these animals by maybe April, May, latest May, around there. Then we'll have moved all the animals.
Well, to the focus of our conversation this morning, while the big concern for most schools was ensuring they had the relevant tools and facilities to ensure the learners can keep safe in some parts of the country, nature had thrown in huge challenges, and we are referring to that period when schools were reopening. Lois Wangoi with that report.
Most schools are in need of water for sanitation, but here in Baringo, too much water has wreaked havoc. 31 pupils out of 300 reported back to Loruk Primary School. The rest have been cut off by the water of the swollen Lake Baringo and Lake Bogoria. The government has been silent about the plight of Baringo pupils, many of whom have seen their education cut short by this natural calamity. Here, boat transport is the main way of reaching school at a cost of 60 shillings per child, but the waters are treacherous. Snakes, hippos and crocodiles make the trip to school a dangerous ride. And for those parents who cannot afford the boat transport, the alternative is a 5-kilometer trek through this rough terrain to make it to school, which is largely a makeshift camp. It's all that remains after flooding destroyed the schools. A lot has changed for learners here in Baringo at Ngambo Primary School. Some pupils are learning under trees because part of the school's infrastructure was fully submerged under the waters of the swollen Lake Baringo. Here we find a Class 8 lesson and a PP1 class going on concurrently with 2 teachers in one classroom. Pupils are scrambling for some shade to shield them from the hostile Baringo weather.
Shule tunatarajia watoto 318, lakini kwa sasa watoto ambao wamefika shuleni ni watoto 32. Na tunaona hii idadi ni idadi ndogo.
In Kisumu County, Ombaka Mixed Secondary School is no more. It was recently ravaged by the flooded River Nyando. Parents and guardians have had to dig into their pockets to purchase these tents and chairs so their children can continue learning. There's been no help from the government.
We organized a small fundraising and the community chipped in, and this is what they have done. We have not received anything from either the government or from the MP.
In Kiambu County, Juja constituency, agitated parents at Rore Primary School broke into these two newly constructed classrooms which were locked by the contractor. They were protesting delayed payments for their work. The parents discovered the space is too small to allow proper social distancing for the school's population of 1,200 pupils. At the Arap Moi Primary School in Kajiado County, many of the learners endure the hot sun in the playing field, which was also their classroom when school opened. Some found shelter under these car shade.
Some will read under the field, we have a garage at the parking lot, some will go in there, some will go under the tree, but the challenge is that even under the tree, we don't have the facilities like the blackboards and all that.
In Kericho County, there are about the poor state of sanitation in schools owing to lack of clean piped water in some constituencies. In Bureti constituency, learners from Societe Primary School were first sent home to fetch some clean water before the start of their school day. While many schools were able to reopen with reasonable safety facilities in place, the schools in these challenging areas, it appears as if the government social distanced itself from their pressing needs. Lois Wangoi, NTV.
Well, that was the situation when schools reopened on January the 4th. And now, out of those schools, a lot of the circumstances still stay the same, even as the schools grapple with trying to accommodate the students and also be within those restrictions that have come with COVID-19. Now, to understand better exactly what's happening a month later and also what we are seeing as a rising number of indiscipline cases in our schools, we need to understand more from the experts, and of course would like you to be part of this conversation. And to help us off is Teresia Fio, who is a high school teacher and also a counseling psychologist. We are also expecting an education expert, Otoa Sifuna, and of course later on we'll be joined by Enrica Dulo, who is an advocate and family law practitioner. Now, before we get to Ottawa and the law side of things, let's think about the education bit of it. It's been a month into it, Mwalimu.
Yes.
You're back to school.
Yes.
When you see some of the issues other schools are grappling with, do you really think we were ready to go back to school after such a long time?
Well, thank you, Gladys. If I said we were really ready, I would be lying. The greatest challenge that we had at the point of opening, and is still there, is the challenge of social distancing, because no facilities were increased. The dorms were the same, the classes the same, everywhere, all the facilities we had. So we were not ready. Mm-hmm. If I said we were ready, I would be lying.
Okay.
But water is there. We increased the where they need to wash their hands and the like. That one we did. But the greatest challenge, like I said, is social distancing, particularly when it comes to sleeping boarding schools, and at the same time even in the class, because the classes are as overcrowded as before. That is the challenge that we have. I would say it's by God's grace that we have survived this far. Yes.
Okay, now we have seen in that clip, and those circumstances haven't changed for some schools, where literally they found the structures had been submerged because of the rains that were there earlier, and some of those critical things, even books that were missing for them to make use of. In the long run, what kind of impact is this bound to have on these students?
Now, when the children feel disadvantaged, and like if there are no facilities, you can imagine is that what would happen is their stress levels would go up, and they are likely to be irritable. And when people are irritable, they can react. I'm not trying to justify what is happening, but that happens. When they know, and especially when they know that others may be having the facilities, but they themselves are disadvantaged, and they're going to do the same exams. They're not going to be given an exam which is simpler because they were disadvantaged. They're going to do the same exam. So they're likely to feel like, where do we start in all this? How are you going to perform? You know, that can increase the stress levels into such kids. Yes.
And we're thinking about the students. How about the teachers? Because it takes the teachers too to make this work. As a teacher, how do you feel walking into so much uncertainty?
Now, as a teacher, we are trained to give hope. And particularly because, you know, I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm not going to stand in front of my children and show them, my students, show them how impossible things are. So I'll try the much I can to do with the facilities the way they are. But certainly that is only going to reduce that stress just a bit of it, because they can also see. They were out there before they opened the schools, and they were told to social distance. They can see there's no social distance here. So what are we telling them? So we as teachers, we're doing the much we can to work with the situation the way it is, but that is only going to have some little effect on it. We are trying to give them hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we talk about giving hope, these teachers also need hope.
Yes.
Okay. So who is working with you is a question.
That is where the challenge is. Because it is not every teacher who is trained as a counselor. The others who are not. So there's a question of feeling how safe I am. I mean, how safe am I? Because I am vulnerable. Because of my age, because I'm older than these students, I'm told even when they fall sick, they themselves, they can recover easily. So I feel vulnerable. So there is that feeling of how safe am I in this situation? And therefore, and I do not think, well, in our school, our guidance and counseling department is quite strong in Kiabu High School. And we are usually there for both the parents and the students and also the teachers. We try the much we can. But I'm not sure that the same thing can be said of many other schools outside there. So we are doing the much we can. Yes.
And taking you back to, and I think this is now where both the teachers and the students come into this question.
Yes.
We saw a school where two teachers for different classes were teaching at the same time. So in this case, are we not setting up our children?
I'm telling you, you have got it right. I can imagine you are teaching your pupils at your corner. I'm teaching mine at my corner. Are they going to listen to you, or are they going to listen to me? So actually that is chaotic. That is actually demonstrating how unprepared we were. And one wonders, since March last year, what were we doing for all those months? Why were we not ready? Why didn't we get the facility? Why didn't we get the resources, give the resources to the schools to prepare themselves? That was, I mean, one thought that when we went to the lockdown, that we were doing this to prepare. But the funny thing is that as we went back, nothing had been done. So I'm telling you, like you've said, is setting up the children. And I'm not sure what we are communicating to our children. I'm not sure.
Okay, and
Yes.
as an educator,
Yes.
with the candidates going to sit for their exams soon,
Yes.
do you think there should be some sort of consideration considering the season we've had for this particular group of candidates?
I think what I would say, because the Form 4s opened earlier and Class 8 opened earlier, and if you can recall, they were the only ones who were in school. So all the teachers' focus was on nobody else except the Form 4s. Like in our school, what we did, in a class, all our classes, we had 5 streams. So we divided them up and we created 5 more. So at the end of the day, we had 10. And we brought all the teachers who are teaching, even the ones who are not teaching Form 4, we brought them now on board. Such that instead of teaching 50 plus students or 60, now we were teaching like 30 and 20-something students. So we gave them all our attention. And I want to believe that is what happened to other schools as well. So I would say the Form 4s are okay. I would say they are okay. And I believe that the class 8 are also okay. Only when now you're talking about the floods. I'm not sure whether they were learning. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, there's also been another interruption because the violence witnessed in schools in the recent weeks seems to be increasing as we go along. If we can have that story up on our auto cue. This has been the case. We have over 10 schools that have been affected with insecurity, and actually not even insecurity, disciplinary issues. And a lot of stakeholders are saying we need to rethink this and actually perhaps even include corporal punishment to rein in the runaway indiscipline. The question is this the only way out? But hey, let's hear what the stakeholders have to say.
At Career Boys Boarding School in Kirinyaga, this group of students may not have predicted that they'd be exiting the gate so soon. Barely weeks after the full reopening of schools, they've been expelled. A fire that raised down 2 dormitories on January 17th will see the institution shut for 2 weeks to allow for investigations.
Kuna watoto ama wanafunzi hasa wa darasa la 8, darasa la form 4 na form 3 ambao ni suspects. Sometime back wakati walirudi kutoka likizo ile ilikuwa ya muda mwingi, about 1 year, walianza kuonyesha tabia mbaya.
For many students who went through primary and secondary education in the 80s, 90s, and well through the 2000s, this belt was used as a form of disciplinary measures.
But despite Kenya ruling out corporal punishment in 2001, the debate still rages on.
I think it's the high time, as the lawmakers and as parents, we put our hands together and see whether Kiboko can really help us. Why am I saying this? I'm a parent, and I know that these boys who touched this school could be very innocent boys. Only if some kind of discipline has been administered to them.
If there must be any form of punishment meted on any child that requires inflicting of pain or criminalizing, let the security system deal with that.
In 2001, Kenya became a signatory under the Convention of the Rights of the Child, outlawing corporal punishment, and in the same year enacted the Children's Act, which prohibited the use of force, however light, on children. Getting Kenya to also remove their signature on the law will also prove to be a tumultuous process, should she decide to go back to the practice. The union is instead calling for more psychological assistance for students and the abolition of boarding schools as one of the solutions.
What message are they communicating? And we have evaded this over time because I think there are business entrepreneurs in this country who would like to maintain the boarding school system, to use it as a profit-making venture.
Gena Kirori, NTV.
So there is runaway indiscipline, especially in our secondary schools, and the suggestion that we should take up corporal punishment to tame the same has been tabled, and this was actually tabled by the CS for Education, George Magoha, and other stakeholders have come to support or to say, no, we cannot go back to what was already put aside many years ago. And we pose the same question to you. Do you think corporal punishment should be reintroduced in our schools? Well, that hashtag is new normal. And Mungai Njuguna says, not at all. It will breed more violence, more so in secondary schools. Another here from Aslan Richard says, gone are the days. Well, it's been a couple of years since this was banned. Obiero says, may corporal punishment be reintroduced. Okay. Eric says, spare the cane and spoil the child. Well, Vitalis Okale says, kuna kitu nilisoma kwa biology ilisema, ukizoea kitu inakuwa mazoea. Watachapwa wazoe viboko, hence kupigwa will be normal to them. We need to pray for them. Righteous prayers. Vitalis, we hear you. Aaron says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Watoto wanyoroshwe wapate adabu. We have Paul Mwangi who says it should be introduced back. Kids are really behaving badly. Another here from Josfert Kabila who says, no, let's change our behavior as a society because the whole society is rotten and lacks morals, right from the leaders to the parents, and then our children are good at emulating. Lukam Kim says, no, wachape watoto wanani. I hear a lot of this amongst parents nowadays. Stephen Sureri says, it should start with the parents. Ama wahenga vile walisema mtoto uleavyo ndivyo akuavyo was irrelevant. We hear you. Manu says, corporal punishment, yes, but only caning on specified body parts, and maximum number of canes should also be specified. Well, that is your feedback in as far as reintroduction of corporal punishment in our schools is concerned. And if you'd like to talk to us, please, you can also reach us using those numbers at the bottom of your screen. And I am curious to know, as a teacher and of many years, Teresia, should we go back to corporal punishment?
Now, maybe before I answer that question, Gladys, I want to say something here that what our students are doing in schools are actually reflecting the society. I am taken back to 2007, 2008, when we had post-election violence. Our children then watched us burn one another's house, kill one another, others raped. We even engaged our children to do that. And when they went back to school, if you can remember, there were so many strikes, such that in the month of June 2008, every day there was 10 schools that were going on strike. So at the end of it all, like 300 had gone on strike, banning the schools and all this and all that. And to me, it is us who set up ourselves. We showed our children that this is the way to go, that when I'm angry with you, I fight you, I kill you, I ban you. That is what we communicated to our students. And they were watching us. And he said, somebody said, you can talk to somebody, but your actions are too loud. They drown your words. Our children don't just listen to what we are saying. They watch us, what we are doing, and that is what they do. This very week, I think so, there are some 2 registrators who fought in a Amazizi somewhere. Western also, there was such a case. Our children are watching. They can see Baba there, what he is doing. Their father, their mother, their brother, older brothers and older sisters, they are doing that. Why do we think our children should be different? They are watching us. So we have set them up. We have become a violent society. We love violence. We have embraced violence. Right from the top to the bottom, that's what we are doing, and our children are watching. And I believe there are many factors that are making our children to behave the way they are doing. And introducing the cane, I do not think that one will help. We must get things right. We must get things right. And we need also to ask ourselves, why was the cane banned in the first place? Remember, there were cases whereby some teachers, in the process of beating children, they would kill them. Remember that?
Yes.
And that is what made people to lobby for it to be banned in the schools. And now we are saying again, let it be. And then another thing I raise here, these parents who are asking us teachers to beat their children, are they beating them themselves? Are they? Why do they want me as a teacher to beat their children in school, and they themselves, they're not beating them at home? I know there's a praise for the cane, but let the parents do their work. Let the parents do their work. We have, all of us, even as a society, the politicians are actually leading in the way of violence, you know? I mean, our children are watching. Why are we expecting them to behave like angels when we are not?
Okay,
Yes.
that is a pertinent question. And just to put this into perspective, in 2001, Kenya became a signatory under the Convention on the Rights of a Child outlawing corporal punishment, and in that same year enacted the Children's Act, which prohibited the use of force, however light, on the children. So this is since 2001. So many years later, 11 to be precise, we are saying, let's reintroduce this. So this is what we're trying to understand. Is this the only way we can tame the indiscipline we're seeing today? Let's bring in Otto Asifuna. He is also a teacher and an education expert. What is your comment on this? Should we go back to corporal punishment?
Yeah, Gladys, thank you very much for having me. I don't know if I'm audible in the studio.
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wish to, first of all, to thank every stakeholder who is involved in making sure that we have a smooth running educational process in this country. From the very onset, I want to tell you very categorically, Gladys, that I want also to echo the sentiments that has been put forward by the very able Madam, who is my co-panelist in this particular show, that in psychology, Gladys, there is a concept called tabula rasa. Tabula rasa simply means that a child is like an empty debe, that now society has the mandate and responsibility to fill in. And even in matters technological language, we say garbage in, garbage out. So I want to echo the sentiments that has been put forward by Madame to say that what we are seeing in our learners is a replica of exactly what is happening in our society. Gladys, it pains me as a teacher, Otto Asifuna, to see even the kind of shenanigans that the politicians are putting forward. You saw the episode in Kisi. You see in almost every rally, the animosity, the wrangles, and all kind of hooliganism that is being portrayed. We as teachers, Gladys, have had a very big responsibility in terms of instilling values, discipline, and the core responsibility of any teacher is just not to teach the matters cognitive. I keep on telling people that we have taught the head so much that it is now the time to teach other aspects of the body, which includes the heart and other values that can integrate and make our students holistic persons. Coming to your very crucial question, Gladys, I think corporal punishment, reintroduction of corporal punishment in our schools will be a retrogressive kind of move. We grew up getting very, very severe punishment, Gladys. And I remember my high school teacher, we used to call him Jeshi. And he earned that name because he could thoroughly cane you until your hindquarters bleed like you are an animal. Now, the question is, did we bring forth the positive results when we were thoroughly caned? No, it made us even much more incorrigible. So that is the psychology. Psychology says that when you administer corporal punishment, when you meet pain, you first of all strain the relationship between you as a teacher and a student. So instead of bringing that proximity so that the student can trust and make you a friend to enhance teaching and learning environment, the student is going to fear you. But the question that Madame has said is what I also want to leverage on. When we teachers start administering this corporal punishment, we will be in trouble. I'm telling you, you will hear tomorrow Otto Asifuna has been taken to jail because he beat somebody's daughter or somebody's son. And that's why I even want to support Kenya National Union of Teachers, NAT, that says, yes, if we recommend reintroduction of corporal punishment, let us not, we as teachers, be the ones doing that, beating up our children in schools. Let us call in the police to do that. But again, why should we militarize our schools? Okay. Schools are supposed to be safe. Schools are supposed to be secure. Schools are supposed to make that particular son or somebody's daughter to come in the following day knowing that I'm going to be in a safe learning environment. But fundamentally, what is the role that the Kenyan parent has been doing? It pains me. 9 months only, Gladys, when students have been with their parents at home, this is the shenanigan we are seeing all over. Schools burning, teachers being macheted, and all manner of it. It means that the Kenyan parent is doing absolutely zero work to complement our effort to make sure that we enhance discipline in our schools. That I must go on record having been one teacher across the Kenyan profile to say that the effort that is being done by the Kenyan parent is very minimal.
Okay,
that is
now,
why we are seeing all this kind of madness from our learners.
Otoa, let me stop you at that point, but he brings up a very important and pertinent issue. And Joseph from Dagoretti joins us on the line. What is your question or comment?
Oh, my comment is that the fact they're saying that corporal punishment should be reintroduced is sort of funny, because the fact is it never stopped. I mean, they say that it was stopped in 2001, but as a recent students have been in school, it still goes on. It never stopped. And if I kind of disagree with the gentleman. He says that the police should come in and do the corporal punishment. Now that's just like, are the students criminals? Is it like a military school or something? It just doesn't seem fair.
Okay.
Yeah, it just seems more of like mutiny, and it's inhumane, honestly.
All right. Now, Joseph, you say you're a student and corporal punishment for you never stopped. Do you think it has made you a better person today?
No, it didn't. Okay, I'm not a student now. I was a few years back, 2 years back. But in terms of making me better, I can say that I didn't have really many positive results. It makes me sort of, I think it made me more of like not inclined with authority, more of like seeing them as more of an enemy, not more of a place I can go to get help. So the reasons why schools are being banned in the first place is because of the harsh treatments in school. It's not because, and it's not because that they're afraid of some performance issues or anything like that. And there's also an issue of prefects being given the mandate to cane other students. And it can get to a point where it's really brutal, and the school tries to cover it. They try to cover up the mess. So I don't think saying that the students are in stress to perform. It's kind of like an old ideology of what makes students to riot in schools. Because the lifestyle in school is more of like a military camp.
All right. Joseph from Dagoretti, thank you for calling in. And it's interesting that he touches on something that I saw on some studies that have been done throughout the years that actually all attributed to the deviant behaviors among students to aggressive peers, peer pressure, lack of a culture of learning, and an overloaded curriculum. And top of that list was actually the aggression that comes from peers and also from the teachers. So from your experience, how does this correlate now to the behavior we're seeing today?
You know, we say, Gladys, that violence begets violence. If somebody is exposed to violence, they are likely also to be violent. Like, for instance, if a student was bullied in Form 1 by, let's say, a Form 3, when they get to Form 3, they want to bully others. They saw this is the way to go, and so they do it that way. And therefore, violence is no good. And it is unfortunate if what Joseph has said is happening in any school. I think that would be very unfair if it is happening in this time and age. Because many of us think once it was banned, it's no longer happening. It's no longer taking place. So it's rather sad, because we are as a result of what we see, and I believe that's why now such students would behave that way. It's very unfortunate.
Okay, now in the case where we're even seeing students attacking their own teachers, you know, as a way of rebelling towards authority, what are we saying? Are we looking at the teacher as a threat, or are we looking at the teacher as somebody who does not have a mandate over me as a child?
You know, I think I also want to bring something to it to make it clearer. You know, the poor parenting at home, when parents don't teach their children to respect authority, if they don't teach them to obey authority, so when they come to school, they see a teacher as us versus them, you know, and they are likely to react to this teacher. Because again, gone are the days when the teachers used to be respected by everyone, including parents, you know. But when parents don't teach their children to respect authority, how are they going to now obey that authority in school? And they are likely to feel like they want to react. But at the same time, let me bring in something. When these children came back from the lockdown and they opened the schools, they came back when they were traumatized because of what they had experienced. Few schools did like what we did, because the first thing we did when the Form 4s came was to debrief them. The very first thing before we started teaching them, we debriefed them. When the rest of the schools, students came early this January, again what we did, the first thing was to debrief them. You need to debrief them so that they can, you're giving them a safe environment whereby they are emptying what they have gone through, and you're dealing with it in a safe environment as a counselor in school. I'm not sure that many schools were able to do that. So even as they are reacting because many of them are bottled up. They are bottled up by what they saw, what they experienced, and all this and all that, and therefore they are likely to react. Not to mention also, again, they were used to freedom. The time to wake up is when they felt like waking up, when to do this, when to do the other. And then now in school we are telling them, at exactly this time, we expect you to be in class. They are likely going to react to it because I'm not used to this kind of thing. And now you, as a teacher, you're forcing me to do this. So they are likely to react like the way some of them were reacting against the teachers.
This could be the impact of the prolonged stay at home. Now, I'm told we also have another caller from Naivasha, that is Josephine. Josephine, what's your question or comment?
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
What is your question or comment?
Oh, my question is nilikuwa nataka kuongea Kiswahili, sikutaka kuongea Kiingereza.
Endelea.
Nilikuwa nasema watoto wakiingia katika shule kulingana na vile kama this time vile wameattend, wamefanya mambo ambayo hata haieleweki. Hata sisi wazazi tunahuzunika na tunasikia vibaya kulingana na vile wanafanya. Lakini kusema watoto wa shule wakishafunguliwa shule wachapwe na polisi itakuwa kama criminals. Kwa hivyo ile kitu ya kwanza, mtoto akiingia kwa shule ni vizuri sana waweze kuwasiliana vizuri na walimu. Ni vizuri sana wajitolee kwa watoto ili waweze kujua shida zao, na pia mtoto wakati yako na shida asichapwe tu sababu amefanya makosa. Ni vizuri hata kuongelesha mtoto, ni vizuri hata kumfahamu, hata kumsikiza. Na tena mtoto hawezi kuitiwa polisi. Akiitiwa polisi itakuwa kama criminals. Na hawa watoto tunataka kuwapeleka vizuri ili sababu hiyo ndio msingi yetu ya kesho. Kwa hivyo hawa watoto wajaribu, hata kama ni hawa counselors, wajaribu sana kuunderstand ya watoto. Na pia ni vizuri sana kusikiza shida ya mtoto. Unajua za zingine mtoto akiwa kama hako karibu na mzazi, huwa anaona kama za zingine hako upweke. Maana hako kwa mwalimu, hako kwa mzazi, sasa tena ameenda kwa polisi na hajafanya hajui sasa shida ambazo zinastahili kwenda kwa polisi. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri sana hata sisi wazazi tukiwa kama ni nyumbani tujaribu sana kusikiza watoto wetu.
Asante,
na pia hata vile serikali inasema mtoto asitolewe shule hii apelekwe hii. Mnajua kuko na mashida nyingi katika shule hata ya kudhulumiwa hawa watoto. Mambo inaenda ikigeuka, hii masenema wanaona inawatoa kwa wema wa Mungu.
Asante sana Josephine kutoka Naivasha. We have Reverend Daniel from Machakos. What's your question or comment?
Hello.
Good morning. What's your question or comment, Reverend?
Yes. I want to say it's important as a society or as a community, we gang together that we may be able to discipline our children. Na ile kitu ya kwanza ningesema ni kwamba discipline ianze nyumbani. kwa sababu hata mtoto akiwa mchanga, mzazi asipomrekebisha, hata akienda shule itakuwa ni ngumu. But the issue of the police maybe kuwa cooperated to discipline, hiyo sio mzuri. But I want to say, like the way the word of God says in Proverbs chapter number 13 and the verse 24, that it says that whoever loves his children, he must discipline them. Now you spare you spare the rod, then you spoil the child.
Okay.
So ni vizuri tushirikiane, ukute mwalimu tu anakaa tu kama mzazi. Na kupitia pale naona tutaenda mbali.
Asante sana, Reverend. And yes, you can still reach us using those numbers at the bottom of your screen as we try to understand better if we should really reintroduce corporal punishment or there are other measures we can put in place to rein in on the indiscipline we're seeing in our schools. Now, Ottawa, you suggested because, of course, teachers don't want to be part and parcel of the corporal punishment, you thought perhaps police should be doing this, but of course that would be militarizing the system, and it has hit a raw nerve with so many of our callers. But the question here is, what can be done other than corporal punishment to rein in on this behavior?
Yeah, and Gladys, I really don't want to be misquoted as teacher Otoa Sifuna, because I see Josephine from Naivasha thinking that is my... I said that was the recommendation that was put forward by Kenya National Union of Teachers. And it was being proposed because of simple reasoning, that when teachers are the ones involved in administering corporal punishment, it will open up Pandora's box where the teachers are going to find themselves in loggerheads with the parents and even with the students themselves. Because as a teacher, I strive to maintain a cordial working relationship with the student so that proximity between me and the teacher and the student is guaranteed for the purpose of teaching and learning. But your question is very fundamental. What should be done? What going forward? Because already, Gladys, as we speak, there's a crisis in our schools.
Yeah.
It has never happened in the history of any academic process that a student can actually literally attack his or her teacher in class or in school. It has never happened that a group of students attack a security guard in school and they actually cause or eliminate his or her life. So we are saying that there is a crisis here. Madam Teresa has spoken very ably on going forward. We as teachers need to do. First of all, let's appreciate the fact that the students that we were with last year in March, in February, I think, are not the same students that have come in 9 months down the line. A lot has changed, Gladys. In my own survey and research, I have realized that a number of boys, especially in high schools, and I'm a teacher of a high school, I have realized that some of them were engaged in some economic ventures. Some had even taken border business. And some were doing some contractual jobs in the villages and in estates. At the end of the day, they were making some little money. So these guys were getting some survival, economic survival. All of a sudden, that tap has been instantly closed. So there is that psychological stress. With our daughters and sisters in schools, something has happened. Some of them, because of the reality of life, again, we must call a spade Gladys. Some of them were engaged in opposite sex relationships. Some even went ahead to conceive, and some of them, because of that kind of arrangement, even if they are physically in class, I'm telling you, Gladys, their emotional, their thoughts, their thinking is actually away, miles and miles away from the classroom. So as teachers, we need to be alive to the fact that our students have gone through a lot of dynamics. So guiding and counseling and a lot of psychosocial support to sit down with that girl who is under stress and just work with her and tell her that you need to come back to school and bring your mind to school. To work with that boy, I read a book called From Boys to Men. That transition is not as smooth process, Gladys. But most importantly, I think we need to chart a way forward in terms of now trying to depart from a heavily exam-oriented system. Our 844 Gladys lacks one thing. It is highly content-based, but is not concept-based. When you look at other forms of curriculum globally, they will leverage more on what we call formative assessment. And the summative assessment just constitutes maybe a smaller percentage. So in our 844 system, we have put a lot of emphasis on the terminal exam. And that is what is putting undue pressure on our students in schools. Yesterday, you saw a report that was given out on the assessment that was done by Kenya National Examination Council on the preparedness of our learners in KCPE and KCSE. And I'm telling you, if you look at those findings, you'll be scared because a good majority of the students will actually fail if the exams was to be administered today or even in March, the way it is coming. So we need to say that there is a crisis with us. And therefore, let us stop being just content producers. When I go to class, let me just not go there to teach oxymoron or paradox in literature, but also teach the concept of life. Understand this particular person, this particular Form 2, this particular Form 3. What has she gone through? Can I provide a hand, a shoulder for her to lean on? Let us be role models. And I want to tell you categorically here, Gladys, that the number of role models in our society have also shrunk like minskers.
And we'll get Otoa.
Sorry.
Allow me to stop you at that point because we will talk more about that in a moment. But we have Paul from Kajiado hanging on to the line. Paul, what's your question or comment?
Allow me to stop you at that point because we will talk more about that in a moment. But we have
Kindly reduce the volume on your television.
My name is Paul Karoga from Kajiado County, Loitokto.
Tafadhali reduce volume ya TV.
Majina yangu ni Paul Karoga kutoka Loitokto. Na mimi pia nilikuwa nataka nitoe maoni yangu. Kwa maana sisi zote kuna siku tulikuwa wanafunzi shuleni na tunajua tabia za wanafunzi. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri wanafunzi waadhibiwe kulingana na makosa yao. Wakifanya makosa ni vizuri waadhibiwe. Maana hata neno la Mungu linasema ya kwamba usiweke chini kiboko kwa ajili ya mtoto.
Okay, so Paul unasema watu wachapwe.
Wachapwe kulingana na makosa, wasukumiziwe na wachapwe. Maana hata ukienda hospitali ili uweze kupona, lazima daktari akupe mashauri. Wachapwe.
Haya basi, Sami kutoka Nandi, what's your question or comment?
Hello.
Sami.
Nakusikia.
Haya, ungetaka kusemaje?
Nilikuwa nataka niseme. Nasikia watu wanaongelea corporal punishment to students, But you have to remember corporal punishments in prisons were also abolished. And prisoners are criminals, maybe, although we call them clients, they are criminals and they are not beaten. Human rights came and abolished it. You are not allowed to beat a prisoner. So what of students? Students are not criminals. There should be a law that stipulates on our student or a mwanafunzi atapigwa. Kitambo nadhani mnajua kwamba kulikuwa na mtu anafungwa na anaandikiwa viboko jela. Na kifungo na viboko. But wakati walikuwa napigwa kulikuwa na mbinu ya kupiga. Daktari anakuja anapima mfungwa aone kwamba kwa healthy anaweza tosha pigwe kulingana na ile makosa amefanya. Kulingana na ile matokinene jaja amemhukumu. So in a corporal punishment will never be at school because they are not criminals. It will never. Human rights wata intercheck na watakataa tu bado. Although mi nilipikwa kwa shule and it affected me a lot because nilikuwa na fear kufanya makosa because ndachapwa na mwalimu. We used to fear canes. So it should be, maybe it should be there, but there should be modalities on how to do it.
Thank you, Sam from Nandi, for your contribution. And we still have a lot more of your feedback coming through to us, even on social media. That is a hashtag New Normal. Now, Otoa, we need to release you to go to class. So I would like your final remarks. And of course, you touched on the fact that we need role models both within the school and without the school. Your parting shot, briefly.
Gladys, thank you very much. I actually need to prepare for a class that is coming up. I want to say that we have a duty as teachers to make sure that discipline is enhanced in our schools. Schools are social orders. And when schools degenerate into anarchy, then it is telling you one thing, that society has already degenerated. Just like we give the analogy of the family and the larger society. When the family breaks down, the schools break down, then we don't have a society. So I'm calling upon all the teachers that are listening to me, that you have God-given duty to ensure that the students that are under your care behave well. I want also to call upon all the stakeholders, from the ministry to the government, to the national county governments, that let us put our synergy together to make sure that discipline is actually enhanced in schools. And anybody who causes that strain, and I want to single out that when you see boys and girls misbehave, they are actually getting that from somewhere. Our students do not learn from theory, Gladys. They learn from practice. And so the question again we should be interrogating ourselves is, where are they picking this wayward behavior? If they go physical, if they go highly emotionally charged, I think our Kenyan politicians are also letting us down by not being good role models. The parents are also a big letdown. They are not executing their role perfectly well. When you touch somebody's daughter or son, Gladys, you'll be in for a rude shock. The parent will storm into the school and say, unapiga mtoto wangu kwa nini? Nimekupatia ruhusa ya kupiga mtoto wangu. And so the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child is a cliche. It is no longer tenable. And so lastly, I want to say that our African values and culture, the moment we departed from that, Gladys, and started aping other forms of exotic cultures that I don't want to mention, I think that is where the problem started. Some of the issues we are seeing in schools like lesbianism, homosexuality, and the rest, Gladys, they are imported culture. So let's also go back to our African cultural beliefs and practice. Let us enhance our Ubuntu. Let us enhance our socialism. And I think with that, we will rectify a lot of the issues that are in schools. Thank you very much. I'm Teacher Otoa. Let me now go and teach my students.
Thank you, Otoa Sifuna. As you've heard, he is a teacher and actually an education expert. Thank you for your time. And in the next hour, we shall actually bring on board somebody who will help us walk the legality of all these suggestions we are hearing today in as far as taming unruly behavior in our schools. And that is Enrico Dulo, who is an advocate and family law practitioner. For now, we'll take a short break. When we come back, more chances for you to be part of this conversation, whether by phone call or contributing on our social media handles. And that hashtag is New Normal. Stay with us.
It was another normal morning for Benna and Kenna. School was cancelled. The twins were puzzled. Maybe the school had been stolen by aliens and taken into space. No, the reason why everyone had to stay at home was that nasty virus. We're staying at home to protect ourselves and the people we love. Soon, everything will be okay. The Adventures of Benna and Kenna.
After Kenyatta's death in August 1978, Muliro would raise his sights higher and announce his interest in succeeding Moi as KANU vice president.
He was a man who believed in the protection of human rights.
It was a sign of Muliro's strength in Luhyaland, and especially among his Bukusu community, that not only was he re-elected in his Kitale East constituency easily, but also managed to help his allies get elected. Muliro joined Fort Kenya when he failed to reunite the Odinga and Matiba factions, but he continued his reunification efforts.
At 10 p.m.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today, we are focusing on the status of our schools today, especially in the face of the rising numbers of disciplinary cases in our secondary schools. It's been a month since the full opening of schools happened, and apart from that, there are also other issues, but this one seems to be topping the list in as far as the concerns around the education system is concerned. And still helping us walk this conversation in studio, I have Teresia Few, who is a high school teacher and a counseling psychologist. We are now also joined by Enrica Dulo, who is an advocate and family law practitioner. Thank you, ladies, for staying with me. And before we get to that discussion, let's remind ourselves of the situation. The ongoing unrest in Kenya has seen over 10 schools set alight. Now, some have been closed, and the shocking acts of destruction of school and student property have led the country to seek answers for the causes of this delinquent behavior. Nuru Abdulaziz looks at how this problem was tackled in the past and what lessons can be drawn.
The rate at which schools are reporting fires since reopening on 4th January 2021 is alarming. This trend continues as the government seeks a lasting solution. This is not the first time such incidents are being witnessed in the country. In 2016, 2017 and 2018, when Fred Matiang'i was the CS for Education, schools reported unrest. According to a report of the Departmental Committee on Education on Students' protests, in total, 107 schools were affected by various forms of unrest in 2018. In 2017, there were 123 cases. In 2016, the number of schools affected was 483. During that period, Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i directed school heads not to admit learners transferring from schools destroyed due to unrest.
Transfer of students must be accompanied with a clearance letter by the Sub-County Director of Education, so that students are not moving from one school to another to destroy property.
The burden of repairing the damaged school property was left to the parents.
We are not going to subsidize crime.
We are not going to subsidize hooliganism.
Back then, the Kenya Union of Teachers blamed the Education Ministry for the unrest in schools, terming it as the students' way of fighting back against the ministry's radical reforms in the education sector. During that period, Matiang'i appealed to school administrators to work closely with teachers and improve their communication with students.
These are our children. Let us manage them in an accommodative manner and reason with them also, so that if there is a challenge, we listen to them and we work away a solution with them.
In 2017, a team appointed by CS Matiang'i found that drug and alcohol abuse in primary and secondary schools was rampant and contributing to student unrest. Fast forward to 2021, more than 10 schools have already been banned since the schools reopened in January 2021. And just as Matiang'i did, the current Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has called on head teachers not to enroll unruly students expelled from other institutions.
No child from schools which have been closed due to banning should be admitted in any other school. So that if you think you are going to ban this one and you go to another one, then you ban that one.
The Kenya Union Post-Primary Education says abolishing boarding schools is the best way to solve this problem.
Na tukuwe na zile tunaita day schools ambazo ndio wanafunzi wanaenda na jioni wanarudi kwa wazazi wao. Na hii itasaidia pia wazazi kuchukua jukumu yao kama wazazi na kulinda watoto wao na kusaidia walimu kwa mambo ya nidhamu ya watoto.
Significantly, there have been no reported deaths from this recent wave of arson. Nuru Abdulaziz, NTV.
Well, that is the situation and how it has played out in the past, and it looks like some of these things that were suggested then are coming back today, especially about expulsion and these students not to be readmitted into other schools. But even now that we are talking about the fires, let's contextualize where we are at as a country. If we can have those graphics on our screen, students and unrest and school fires so far, actually the number is at 20 plus if you are to count in the different areas, whether in Western Nyanza and of course the Rift Valley. So far it stands at over 20 plus. The counties most affected is Bungoma with 7 schools, and facilities most targeted in these schools are actually dormitories. Now, something else to keep in mind, this is not the first time it's happening. In the year 2016, there were 483 cases, 2017, 123, 2018, 107. So school unrests, this is not unique to this year, but the circumstances around it perhaps are what are unique. And Mwalimu, speaking of which, there has been that suggestion. It was put across by former CS Fred Matiang'i, and now it has been reiterated by the current CS that these students should know actions have consequences. So if they do what they need to do, what they're doing in schools, they should not be readmitted. What is your comment on this?
I think what the CS said then and now makes a lot of sense, because a student in school A bans the school and then is admitted in school B. So he or she goes to enjoy the facilities of another school, and yet he banned the school where he was supposed to learn. To me, it makes a lot of sense. They need to pay the cost. You know, the government had said it's not going to build those schools that they have been banned. So them, of course, it's the parents, because the students don't have money. Their parents should actually finance the putting up of those schools, and they should remain out as long as it takes to rebuild that school. Others will be rewarding them by taking them to another school. So much as I'm a counselor, I would say no. Choices have got consequences. Yeah.
Okay.
And let us not spread the problem from school A to school B.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Enrique Dulo, advocate and family law practitioner. They say education is a basic right for every child. So when we say expel this child and not admit them into another school, and perhaps the process of rebuilding the other school, as Mwalimu is saying, might take too long and they miss out on school, are we missing out on something here?
Good morning, Gladys, and thank you for having me to be part of your panel discussion. First and foremost, as an advocate, I wish to remind us that Kenya has outlawed corporal punishment, and we outlawed it in our schools. Then again, children have a right to education. Having said that, there are also responsibilities. So it's important that as much as we have outlawed corporal punishment, the issue of indiscipline need to be addressed. Now, as an advocate and as a family law practitioner with more leaning on child rights, I believe it's important that the parents are also held responsible, because what is the root cause of the indiscipline in schools? If it's peer pressure, it's still the parents' responsibility. So in addition to having the parents pay for the damage, as the former CS for Education, Honorable Matiang'i, had stated, I think it's high time that the schools also need to charge parents in court, charge them with parental neglect and abuse, because it is them who fail to discipline their children. That's why when they go to school, they think that they have the world at their feet and they are burning schools. So make the parents pay, both by rebuilding the dormitories or whatever it is that has been burnt in school, but also have them charged in court. Yes.
Okay.
So those are my initial.
So for the parents, they might say, I have done everything there is to tame my child, but they clearly are run away. So in that case, having dealt with so many family issues and circumstances in your line of work, what would happen in such cases?
Even where a parent gives that excuse, I don't think they should still be left off the hook. Maybe they started the discipline late. When the child started becoming unruly is when they started doing catch up, and it's a bit too late. But even where a parent claims that I've done everything and I don't know what to do, I don't think that is inexcusable. They should still be made to pay.
Aha. Okay, we have a caller from Ravine. What's your name, question and comment?
Mimi ni mzee.
Ehe.
Na nikiangalia yale mambo yanaendelea katika mashule yetu. Halo?
Ehe, endelea.
Naona ya kwamba maneno yanapita mikono sasa ya uongozi. Kitu ambacho mimi naona ni kwamba watoto wamewachwa mbali na wazazi. Wazazi wenyewe wamewacha watoto yao hawataka kwamba wanafunzi wanafunzwa na yale ambayo wanahitaji, mpaka watoto wanapomoa mimi wakati katika shule kwa mwaka wa 57.
Okay, Jeremiah, tuko na shida na laini yako jameni. Unaweza tupigia tena tafadhali? Do we have anyone else on the line? All right, please keep calling. Remember that number is at the bottom of your screen, even as you contribute to our conversation of the day. And there is something that has been brought up by Wakili, that both parents, I mean, the student and the parents should actually be charged in a court of law. But as a psychologist, we know that parents can do their level best, but something just does not go well, because pia dunia inamfunza kitu. Is there a way that this gap can be bridged, or would punishing the parents actually yield any fruit?
Well, I must say that as I am here, I'm not just here as a teacher, I'm also here as a parent who has brought up 3 young men. 2 now are married. I did not wait for the school to discipline my children. I knew it was the primary duty of discipline was mine and my husband's, and we did the best we could. Unfortunately, that cannot be said for many parents, because like Wakili has said, some of them will begin somewhere late. When the child is already misbehaving is when they wake up like, oh, what's happening to my son? What's happening to my daughter? For us, they should have started at the bottom there as we're bringing up that child. So many parents have got this kind of style, riches fair, whereby the kid can do anything. And that has enabled the children to become some small monsters, for lack of a better word, you know. And therefore, they reach a point whereby no authority. You know, the first authority, at home there was no authority. So when they get authority in school, they're just wondering, and who are you? You're not my father, you're not my mother, you know? So I believe that every parent should take the responsibility. The media may be there, the social media may be there, but I, as a parent, am the one to ensure that I steer the ship, which is my family, to the right direction. It is me who should take charge. I'm on the driver's seat. And occasionally even talk to them about the social media, and I'll tell them, and I'll sit down, I'll talk to them, and we discuss, this is what is happening, what do you think about it? So we are saying the parent cannot run away. Much as we talk about the stakeholders, and every person has got what they are supposed to do, I'm telling you, the discipline, the parent. And I think when the parent starts feeling the heat, then now I think we'll be getting the right praise, because the parents will take parenting very seriously. Because I think there is a class of parents which does not take it seriously. Yeah.
Now, Enrica, there is also studies that have shown that the use of substance abuse and, of course, alcoholism has penetrated into our schools. And it also starts in our society, either by what the children see happening in the home or also peer pressure. But the law always deals with these children as minors. Do you think at the end of the day, when these children know that the consequences are not as severe as that of an adult, they know they can get away with it?
Thank you again, Gladys. I think that's speculation. I mean, having someone charged in court, and even when those minors are arrested, when they are booked in at the police station, before they are charged in court, I believe that is just enough to scare them. And then the court normally, even though when children are charged, the court is sitting as a children court, remember that it's still issuing out justice. And some of these children end up being sentenced to either Shimolatewa or Shikutsa, boys, and when they miss that period of formal education. So I believe that in a way is a deterrence, not just to them, but probably to their friends who had thought of such tendencies or who were part of such tendencies, but luckily for them, they were not arrested or charged. So I believe that the court is still a very good deterrence, because when you are charged in court, even where you have your family affording to hire for you a legal practitioner to defend you, or where you have a pro bono lawyer defending you, one that's provided for by the state, the likelihood of you being sent to be locked up for a maximum period of 3 years is still very, very live during the proceedings of your case.
Okay, so as a parent, apart from being Wakili, you are also a parent and you see what's happening around us. When it comes to the dynamics of parenting, that has changed. Social media is one huge dynamic that has changed the way we parent today. How best would parents be involved to ensure we deter what we're seeing today? Daktari says, or rather, Mwalimu says, you steer the ship, but at times it happens when you do not even know.
Okay, I'm not a parent directly. Yes, but what I know, having interacted and of course living in a family setup, I agree with my co-panelists that the primary responsibility of disciplining children lies with the parents. It starts at home. Because if we are to reintroduce corporal punishment, as has been advocated for in other sectors, then we'll be reacting to a situation, but we should be responding.
Okay.
If we have enough parents charged in court, and whatever the outcome of the case is made public, it's going to be a deterrence. We may not see the results immediate, but I'm sure in our communities, whether it's Nyumba Kumi or whether it's through the church community, people will talk about it, and little by little, parents will start getting scared. And the ones who will be getting scared are the ones who know that they have not pulled up their socks in parenting their children. So it's important. I strongly advocate that parents need to be charged in court alongside their children with parental neglect and abuse. Yes.
Okay, we have a call on the line. We have Simon from Kitale, is it?
Simon, ningependa kuchangia kwa wale vijana wanachoka shule. Nasema hivi, wazazi hao wachukua jukumu. Serikali ingefanya hivi, ingeuza hata mashamba zao ndio ili watoto hiyo wagrafiki ndio wao mfano mwingine. Kwa maana watakuwa wakiendelea kuchoma na nini na wananyapatiwa. Na hiyo mada kupiga transfer kutoka shule nyingine mpaka shule nyingine, wangewacha hiyo kitu.
Okay, Simon, asante kwa kupiga simu na kwa kuchangia, and those numbers at the bottom of the screen is how you can reach to us even as you contribute to this conversation. And just going back to some of those studies that have been said, again, violence exposure occurring in schools is a reflection of what's happening at home. We are coming from a year where violence within the home was at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Children were exposed to emotional, physical, and other sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Do you think this is also something that we are seeing the ripple effects of today?
That definitely can be resorting to what we are seeing. And my heart goes to those children who are abused. And I remember when the case was brought about, was it Machakos, where so many girls were said to be pregnant. And I remember I wrote on Facebook and I asked, where are the men? Where are the men who had abused those girls? Because it's easier to say that the girls of these days are not well behaved. They are immoral. But it's not just the girls. Where are the men? And the unfortunate thing, it was during lockdown, meaning these men who were involved could either have been a father, an older brother, or a cousin, or a neighbor, those ones within there. And my heart bled for those girls. And I'm thinking somebody who is hurting like that. And let us not forget also that even the boys are also sodomized, which is and we hardly talk about it. And I'm thinking this child is hurting and you release them to the school. What are they going to do? They are angry. They are bitter. They are hurting. Nobody has talked to them. And I'm telling you, in this world, we say the most dangerous person is the one who has got nothing to lose. They have been hurt to the core. They're like a volcano. If that volcano is touched like this, or maybe there is a lot of gas, and then you strike a match, what will happen? There'll be explosion. I believe we've not taken care of our children well, because some parents, not all, have been weapons of torture to those young people. And I do not know how many went back to school when they were hurt like that. And there are those also who saw mommy and daddy fighting. Either mommy beating daddy or daddy beating mommy. So again, they see that and they go back to school. What do we expect of them? You know? So there is a lot psychologically and emotionally that happened to the children. And that could also bring about whatever is happening now. So I feel like calling our parents. I'm a parent and I feel like calling parents to order. Parents need to be parents. Parents need to be parents. And what do I mean by this? A parent needs to be involved in the life of a child. Involved not just providing the money that is needed for fees and food and all this and all that. One is to know what is happening to my daughter, what is happening to my son. It is the business of the parent. And I feel that the young people have been let down so badly. And no one knows, and I may not even know, we may never know the figures of those who were hurt during that time. and the ones who are behaving like that as a result. So there is a question of neglect, like Wakili said. We have got parents who are just not there. I was brought up by parents who had very little, but at least they were there always. So if there was any change in me, they would know there was some change, and I would be corrected in good time. But we have pretended to be too busy. I've always felt, and I've always taken this stand, that parenting, to me, is more important than any other thing that we'll ever do in this world. Those 3 young men, the way they turned out to be, they turned out to be that because I invested and their father invested in bringing up those children. We made sure we were available. I had a husband who usually travels quite a lot. I decided to set aside my ambition to be there for my children because I knew if anything went wrong, let me tell you, Gladys, it doesn't matter how many millions I'll have in the bank. They will drive me to the grave, an early grave, if I did not take care of them. And I knew that early enough. Thank God for my career as a teacher. Because I saw other parents had made mistakes, and I said, but at the time I was becoming a parent, I knew what to do and not what not to do. And I knew I had to set aside ambition and be there for these children. And I thank God for the way they turned out to be. So let us be involved, actively involved, active parenting, not one of being absent. And you know, we keep saying this over and over again. It's like we Kenyans don't listen. I don't know what we listen as parents.
Okay,
Yes.
and clearly now we are seeing the consequences of the same. We take a short break, but we still have some feedback coming to us on that hashtag new normal. And if you can have that on the screen, even as we understand if you are for or against reintroducing corporal punishment in schools. Sina says, what is corporal punishment first? Let's start from there. Well, it is caning of students in school. Kim Alfred says, we are Africans and the chase of Western culture is not going to treat us fairly. Let's treat our children like Africans and stop imagining that they are white. In the US, a kid can comfortably tell his or her parents to shut up. Try it here. Yeah, I can even imagine that going down. Jackson Thor says the question is supposed to be why it was removed. Interesting perspective. Gakori says yes and no. I'm in a dilemma. We hear you, Gakori. Modoi David says no, today's children have rights. You can beat one and pay for damages in the court of law. Mrua Njogona says, too late. These kids are now going to classes with knives. Can you imagine a teacher trying to defend him or herself with a cane in that scenario? We hear you, Njogona. Kingpin Wakidungi says, digital parents have failed big time, raising their kids like prince and princesses. A society where mtoi akijikuna, the house girl is questionable. Mbona umewacha mtoto akajigwara, usikubali akupige, kuja uniambie machozi machozi. Okay, we hear you. Whereas for kids to understand what they went to school for, discipline begins at home with their parents on the forefront. Introducing corporal punishment in school will just lead to more of the same cases we are having these days. Just a thought. We hear you, Were. Dennis Kurao says, no way, that won't work at all. Albert says, then by 1990 to 2009, there was this corporal punishment which taught us values and morals. In addition, it made us understand some subjects in a better way. And if Magoha can see this, it should be reintroduced in a similar way to build a disciplined young nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the motion. Albert, we hear you. Bristol Kennedy says punishment is to reinforce bad behavior. Just like the jails which reinforce the bad humans, corporal punishment should be reintroduced, or rather should be introduced to those who deserve it. Bristol, thank you for writing in. And when we come back from the break, I'd like to hear from our panelists in as far as that suggestion that boarding schools should be abolished to give room for parents to be active in their children's lives. But also, we need to also understand exactly the impact of corporal punishment psychologically to these children, which informs why it was banned in the first place. We'll be right back.
Dial *544*0# to unlock your Safaricom data deal of the day on Kenya's fastest 4G network, Popote. Let's go beyond. Twende tukiuke.
Maji mdosi wangu ametupa simu yangu ndani ya maji.
Mdosi wako kwa sawa? Venye Nkirota ameniambia ajui na akimpigia simu ashiki. Hey! Guy!
For the women who deserve more, Moped is now in Kenya and more than 40 countries. With its nylon-free surface, new Moped has unique softness and up to 100% protection. Your skin will love it.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Pants is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Dettol to clean, protect, and keep you refreshed every day. I still can't believe how quickly you've grown. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
We are here today to pay our tribute to Dudu. Dudu was full of life. He bit, stung, and made people itch at his own will. He spread malaria with great pride. To the family, stay strong and believe that the larvae he has left behind will follow in his wings.
I heard he was killed by mosquito. His family does not know yet. Ati? I said he was killed by mosquito.
Mosquito kills mosquitoes, cockroaches, and all household insects.
Kufedi!
A product of Osho Chemical Industries.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja. We are focusing on the status of our schools in the eyes, especially of the rising indiscipline we're seeing today. It's been a month since we fully reopened schools, and the question is, why are we seeing the rising unrests in our learning institutions? And before we go back to that discussion, let me take you back to early January, where two high school students on different occasions and in two different counties violently attacked their teachers. Here's that report by Anita Konge.
Police from Mango Police Station, Nyamira County, are currently holding a Form 2 student who attacked his deputy principal with a panga. The student, who's from Mokwerero Day High School, allegedly attacked the teacher for not allowing him to get his old exercise books exchanged for new ones. Police were informed by members of the public that a student had stormed the school compound with a panga. On arrival, police were informed that he wanted to attack the deputy principal, who managed to escape unhurt. Preliminary investigations indicated that the suspect was spotted sharpening the panga by his neighbors for the better part of the previous day, but his motive was not known. This incident comes barely a day after Kisii High School student stabbed his two teachers. The 17-year-old has since been arraigned in Kisii and pleaded guilty to the attempted murder offense. The magistrate ruled that the suspect be released on a 50,000 Kenyan shilling cash bail or a bond of 100,000 Kenyan shillings. The Teacher Service Commission has condemned the attacks on teachers in Nyamira and Kisii, calling on Kenyans to help guide their children better. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Just an idea of what's going on with our students and going on in our schools. And even as you take part in this conversation, remember you can reach us on those numbers at the bottom of your screen. We have Amunde from Kahawa Sukari. What is your question or comment?
Mine. Am I talking? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Now, mine is a bit different from what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to tell parents what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And parents are not doing, parents are doing. I want to go to a bit of the past that in the old times there were socializations that how children were being brought by their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And there were elders for girls, there were elders for boys.
Mm-hmm.
Today, there is something that is very amazing, and the church has failed. The government needs to do something about it. The society needs to work. And especially if you look at it today, we have church in the Constitution. We have the government in the Constitution, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. But there's no parenting career. There's no anything to do with the family in the Constitution. So that we know how to handle the family issues. So we need to have marriage and family career in the government so that we are able to have programs and policies to guide the parents on how to bring up their children.
Okay. Thank you, Amunde from Kahawa Sukari, for your contribution. We have Teresa now on the line from Embakasi.
Yes, please.
What's your question or comment?
My question is, or rather my comment is, and thank you for having me in this debate. I would like to talk about the biggest controversy of nature versus nurture. We know that ugali inatoka kwa unga. We should start with the parents. The debate should start with the parents. Because what happens to those children who are truants in school when they become adults? Are they the ones who are having these children? Can we be able to explain the strikes that happen, the fights in the parliament, the adult behavior, which the children are internalizing?
Mm-hmm.
And when they internalize that, they become rebellious. What happened to the approved schools that used to be there? If a parent can be able to show that they have brought up their children very well, they have talked to them, they have even tried taking them to approved schools, they have run away, then the government can pick it from there and help the parents in taking these children in correction centers.
Uh-huh.
So I agree that the burden is with the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I also agree that the debate should start with the parents.
Thank you, Teresa from Embakasi, for your contribution. We now cross over to Winnie, who is joining us from Kiambu. Winnie, what's your question or comment?
Good morning, Gladys.
Good morning.
Okay, ninaongea na kwa Kiswahili.
Mm-hmm.
Mchangio wangu ni kuwa watoto wamelelewa wasipojua kitu inaitwa consequences. Hata nyumbani ukiangalia hawa watoto wanaochoma shule, wanajua hata wakirudi nyumbani wazazi watajaribu kuuliza kwa nini ulifanya bila consequences. Sisi vile tulikuwa tunalelewa hatungejaribu kuchoma shule, sababu utachoma shule uende wapi? Nyumbani utapatana na mzazi na atadeal na wewe. So hawa watoto ambao wanafanya hivi shuleni ni sababu wanajua pia nyumbani hawajafundishwa consequences, na kiboko haitasaidia, sababu huwezi anza kudiscipline mtoto akiwa teenager. That's why they're beating up teachers, because they're almost as big as teachers, and you cannot discipline someone like that. Ati kumchapa kiboko. So consequences is the way to go.
Asante Winnie from Kiambu for your contribution. That number is at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to take part in this conversation. And I'll cross over to Enrico. We have said charge the students, charge the parents so that they can know actions do have consequences. But the question here is, even as we are charging them, are we working with these children to understand how we can turn around this behavior?
Thank you, Gladys. Now, I don't think as it is that the government or the state has the capacity to work with the students. To work with the students, I mean probably to offer them counseling, whereas that would be the ideal situation, because you need also to understand the family background, the family of origin, to know why they are such unruly. But I don't think we have the capacity. Having said that, the caller from Embakasi has mentioned about approved school. I wish to correct the position that Kenya no longer has approved schools. We previously had them, but we don't have them anymore.
Why?
The incarceration places where minors are sent to, if the court finds that they are guilty of the offenses that they were charged with, they are taken to places where they are rehabilitated, not approved. Because when you mention approved, it's like you are going to punish them further. Now, for a minor who is still growing, who is still developing, I don't think punishing them further by taking them to what was previously known as approved school is a way of helping. You need to rehabilitate them. That's why what we currently have are rehabilitation schools. And when they go there, even though they don't have formal education, but they have craft schools, so they are taught schools so that their time there isn't idle. Now, there's an aspect of people who should bear responsibility that we've not mentioned. We've focused a lot on the parents to be on the first tier, to be held responsible, then their offspring. But remember also we have teachers. One, some teachers are very, very high-handed. Let's not forget that. These teachers also come from families. How were they brought up? So I think that TSC, which is the employer of these teachers, also needs to take responsibilities. Because when these children go to school, the teachers become their secondary parents. So some teachers also are very high-handed, some headmasters, some principals, they're very high-handed that they push very well-disciplined children that something just triggers in their brain and they erupt. So as much as we want to hold the parents responsible and the teachers responsible, let's not forget that in schools, the teachers also have a responsibility not to unnecessarily provoke, not to unnecessarily employ very high-handedness in discipline. There's a form of discipline that still maintains dignity. Let's not forget, even where someone needs to be corrected, let's not forget that correct them in love, correct them in dignity. So with those few remarks, thank you, Gladys.
Okay, thank you for that point of view, because Mwalimu, as I mentioned earlier, there was a survey that was released last year, and it was about the violence against children. And this survey actually said that children who come from homes or are exposed to physical abuse end up being abusers in the future. So here we are saying teachers will not cane the children. There's a law against it. The parents are also being told, do not beat them up because you might expose them to violence. So how do you draw the line? And yet we want to ensure that we save these children from themselves.
Now, when it comes to the cane, that reminds me, when the Bible talks about the question of the rod, it talks about the rod of correction, not the rod that maims the child. You know, the two things are very different. I can use the cane to correct the child as a parent, but not to maim the child. Because I am not trying to inflict to maim the child. I am actually trying to, as a parent, to tell my son, whom I've told over and over again to stop a certain habit, and he's not stopping. I'm trying to communicate, this cannot go on anymore. So I'll use it sparingly as a parent. I'm not saying as a teacher, because as a teacher, the role still holds, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
But back at home, the parent, I believe, can use it at home, but it's a rod of correction. Not the one whereby some parents will beat the head and everywhere, removing the
almost
eyes,
kill.
almost killing the child.
Yeah.
That's not what we are talking about. If they are to do it at home, let them remember it's one which is supposed to correct the child and not to maim the child, not to hurt the child, if they are to do it at home. And I am a strong believer of the Bible. And therefore, when it says that when you save the rod, you spoil the child, I do agree with it. I do agree with it. And then again, it talks about that when you beat your child with a rod, he will not die. Again, it's a question of which kind of a rod are you using? Not one which is going to kill the child. Are we together? And then it also says that when you use it, you are saving your child from death. So you use it, and you know you started early there. You're not starting when they are teenagers. You're not starting when they are adolescents. It is when they are down there. That is when you're starting it as a parent.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. They cannot run away from it. As a parent, they cannot run away from it. Anybody else can, but not a parent. A parent must know what he's supposed to do. And then even as we talk about the road, there's something that is very important. Train up the child in the way he should go. Before we even think as a parent of beating this child, have you trained the child? Does your son or your daughter know what is supposed to be done in this family and what is not supposed to be done? You need to communicate, because as you're punishing, what are you punishing for? Had you told them that in this home, this is what we do? In the evening, when you go out there by 7 o'clock, you should be at home. Are there such ground rules? Are they there? Are there boundaries that you have set as a family? I hope Kenyans are getting it.
Yes.
Because if they have not set ground rules, they have got no reason to beat out their children. Because they're punishing them for what? Because you can only punish, even in Kenya, we have got law. And you know, if I kill somebody, I know I'm going to go to, or I may even be sentenced to death. I know that, isn't it? So every family must have boundaries. And it should be communicated so clearly to the children that they understand, not with threats, that they know we as family of so-and-so, this is the way we do our things. I hope Kenyans are getting it.
Okay.
And I remember, just a minute, I remember our children used to talk about in our family, no child was supposed to touch any of the vehicles until they were 18 years, not just 18 years, until they had gone to driving school and they qualified. Then they drive at our watch. We are watching how they are driving, and then after that, we could let them go and drive on their own. But now, there were other families, our friends, who are allowing their children to drive. And therefore, they were putting pressure on us. The family also, and so they drive. Why not us? And we had to tell them, look here, this is the family of Fio Congo. And in the family of Fio Congo, nobody touches the steering until you are 18 and you go to driving school. So let families have boundaries. And let them communicate well and train their children.
All right. Even
Yes.
as we bring this conversation to a close, there has been a suggestion by Kupet that we should abolish boarding schools. Perhaps this will give leeway for parents to be actively involved in their lives of their children, but also take away that whole, environment that is created within a boarding school amongst peers. What's your thought?
Well, we talk about abolishing boarding schools. I don't know whether it is so defeatist. Are we saying we are defeated by our children? The government is nothing they can do. The parents in this country, there's nothing they can do. Is that what we are communicating? I understand Kupete anyway, and I understand the suggestion, because if the parents is not doing their work, let the children go back there. So there'll be no schools to ban. Either to ban anything, they ban their houses, isn't it? That you can understand it from where it is coming from, but I still feel that all of us need to do something. When I was so much bothered, because having taught in our schools for many years, more than 30 years, dealing with these young people, there is a way my heart goes to the children. It goes to them. I feel for them, and I feel with them. And therefore, as I saw what was happening, like I talked about 2007, 2008, I felt like documenting that in a book that is here, Violence in Schools, Causes, and Potential Solutions. And I looked at it at what each and every stakeholder can do, including the judiciary. You remember, Gladys, there is a time when even sending a student away from a school, suspension, we used to be taken to court. And as we would be taken to court, I don't know what used to happen, because the judges were kind of like passing judgments which were against the school. So the school is told, admit this child unconditionally. What was the judiciary communicating to the children? What were they saying? That the teachers are helpless, they can do nothing. So a child would misbehave, not even being beaten. They have misbehaved, they have been suspended, a parent has run to court. The same parent who is now maybe calling for the cane to be brought back goes to court, and then the judge says, tells the principal, admit this child unconditionally. We have failed, not just the parent, and by the way, of course, there is the whatever, because it's even the parent who went to court in the first place anyway.
Yeah.
But we have really failed in a big way. And I remember here I called upon the judiciary. And I want to thank God, because in the recent past, there are some cases which have been taken to court and the judiciary has said no. And they have upheld what the teachers had done. And I believe that is the way to go. Let us all work together, because once we demonize the teachers, the parents have got little respect for the teachers. Everybody else is against the teachers. What are the teachers supposed to do? And yet we are supposed to discipline the children. And yet my work in school is not even to discipline them. It's to cover the syllabus. Even the guidance and counseling that I do in school, it is out of the goodness of my heart. And all the other teachers who are doing it, isn't it? Because we are not paid to do it, but because we got the heart for them, that's why we are doing it.
And it's important for them.
It's very, very important. But then now, I'm just wondering, at our age, we had teachers who would go out of the way to do things even they were not paid for. I can't say that for the new breed of teachers that is coming on board.
Okay, and that's
I fear for the students, and I
right.
fear for the schools. Yeah.
Some great food for thought there. Thank you, Mwalimu. And your closing remarks, Enrica. I mean, Mwalimu has shown light on the judiciary and the role it has also played for all this to come to a head. Your parting shot.
Thank you. As a legal practitioner, family law practitioner with more leaning on children's rights, I cannot overemphasize that discipline has to start at home. The moral of our fabric is in our families. The law comes in when there's been an offense. As a parent, you don't have to wait for the law to discipline your children, which you should have done. They will be missing out years in school, and their reputation will be dented. So please take up responsibility. Let us bring up responsible families, responsible children, who in turn will be responsible citizens. With those few remarks, thank you very much, Gladys.
Thank you, Enrica Dulo, who is an advocate and family law practitioner, for your time. And of course, Mwalimu Teresia Fio, who is a high school teacher and a counseling psychologist. Now, this is a book she was referring to that she wrote a while back, and it's titled Violence in Schools, Causes and Potential Solutions. Now, at a time where we are all grappling with why this is happening and the potential solutions of the same, I think we need to go back to the root causes and interrogate how we got here. And as all the panelists that were part of this conversation have actually put across, every stakeholder has a role to play and a part to play in all of it. Again, let me thank you, Mwalimu, for joining us, Enrica Wakili for joining us, and earlier on we had Otoa Sifuna, who is an education expert, also chiming into this conversation. Now, tomorrow We shall be shedding light on the strides we have made as a country to eliminate FGM. Unfortunately, the pandemic has greatly eaten into these strides, but with the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation coming up on February the 6th, what lessons can we draw from the pandemic and better protect our girls and women? We'll talk more about that from 7 a.m. See you then.
Akili, 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 akili. We love to wash our hands, and this is how we do it. Wash, wash with clean water. Scrub, scrub, scrub with soap. Rinse, rinse with clean water, and then the germs will go. We love to wash our hands, and this is how we do it. Wash, wash with clean water. Scrub, scrub, scrub with soap. Rinse, rinse with clean water, and then the germs will go.
Well done, soap and water. You got rid of all the germs on Achilles' hands.
Yeah, wagwan. Each and every Saturday, manze kutane pale Nation FM kama kawaida 96.3 for nothing but good vibes and good reggae music.
Kama kawaida, you know how we do it. Tunakupatia mambo moto, story moto concerning our reggae fraternity pale kwenye Jammed On Vibe. We're giving you all the link-ups of our 254 reggae artists and also Jamaican artists.
And of course, kama maze, catch me live on the decks. Maze nikiwapikia reggae noma sana all the way from Kingston, Jamaica, mpaka 254 Nairobi City. Send in your request pale kwenye hashtag #JamdownKE. Yeah man, they call me DJ Mo, the roughest and the toughest.
And I, the Caribbean Queen, Miss Katiwa.
Call me the energy god, MC Jawochi. Don't you go nowhere.
Cause this
is NTV Jam Down.
This week on Lit 360.
Nipe like Nikki Posty, Baba, your fire emoji. Hey guys, this is your girl Berry Lowano, aka Omhanam Sani, aka the voice of New Africa, and you are watching Lit 360. I'm here for the